Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I wanted to talk about Adobe Fresco. It's just been released I think a week ago. And it's meant to be this big kind of like new Adobe package that's kind of as good as maybe a portable version of Photoshop, or a kind of like a counter or a alternative to Procreate. Now, I'm going to title the video Adobe Fresco versus Procreate because for me, I've been using Procreate for a year solid, and I've gone through ups and downs with it. I'm not trying to say I'm biased. I'm just saying I've gone through ups and downs with it. But funny enough, when I come back to the start of how I felt about Procreate when I first used it, it had a lot more power than I gave it credit for. It just didn't do things exactly the way I wanted it to, and I kind of took a lot away from it for that. But from the get-go, from the very first experience of Procreate, it was an absolutely professional tool, and it was completely and utterly intuitive. Now, Adobe Fresco is an interesting tool because it's reasonably intuitive, but it doesn't touch Procreate in how intuitive it is. But it's very intuitive. It's not a software that isn't ease of access. It is reasonably easy to use. It just isn't as easy as Procreate. And I feel like people that have used Procreate are quite spoiled because I feel like it is so easy to get to use. But let's talk about which one's better. So straight out the gate, Procreate still beats this software. And obviously this software is brand new. It's just been released. Apparently it's got a lot of things that are still going to come. But so it has advantages. It has disadvantages. And let's talk about it. So first and foremost, it has all these kind of like special layer modes, kind of like wet layers. It has certain ways that like the data interacts with itself. So for me, when I was doing some coloring, I got to kind of like doing my basic colors, and I was using like a weird oily brush. Then I changed brushes and I couldn't paint over the oily brush. It had like a low opacity part, and I couldn't paint over the part that I wanted to paint over, which was strange, but I just couldn't do it because of how the layers are set up. So I had to merge everything down and try it again when it was all on one layer. For me, that's not a big issue because I like my stuff to all be on one layer at all times. But for what Fresco offers, Fresco offers a few brushes that are decent, but it doesn't offer you brushes that are like, that make you think, well, this could really work. And for me, that was a bit of an issue, just trying to get used to Fresco without saying, okay, I'm going to go into Photoshop, send my brushes to my iPad and then use them. I didn't want to do that, but the capability is there, and that is a plus for me. Secondly, so the selection tool was decent as well. It gives you the option to transform, in the same place as your selection bar, which was good for me. I really enjoyed that because Procreate doesn't offer that. Procreate has its transform tools at the top. The layer management was a little bit confusing because the layer settings are higher up than the actual layer tab to add a layer, which was strange. I had to look for that. I was like, come on, there must be blended modes and everything, and I ended up finding it in the end. But it's a learning experience. But I want to preface the comments that I have used Fresco before. I did use it on launch. I used it a few times. So I'm not someone coming into Fresco not knowing how to use the software. I've used it a few times. I just wanted to, use it a few times before I made a video on it. So as you can see here, what I am painting is one of my usual kind of afro-headed heroic characters. And that's usually something I paint quite a lot. And I just wanted to use Fresco and see how it goes. Now, it's interesting because this brush that I'm using in Fresco is a brush that's been around in Photoshop forever, and they just integrated it and put it in Fresco. And this was a brush that I believe some concept artist created a few years ago. So it was interesting to use that brush on my iPad and be like, yo, and to be honest with you, I really enjoyed the process of using it because it felt really textured and really painterly, which is something I have honestly been struggling to get in Procreate. So it's not Fresco right now isn't a complete and utter W, but Procreate is going to get Photoshop brushes on its next update. If they can match what this brush was doing, I'm absolutely all in. And I'll be very, very happy to continue to use Procreate over Fresco possibly. People have been talking about the price point about Fresco. I'm already an Adobe subscriber, so it's basically free for me. It's just part of my subscription. But for everyone else, paying $10 a month forever sounds completely and utterly ridiculous, because Procreate and a lot of other iPad software is a one-off payment. Making people pay for Fresco seems ridiculous, because at this point in time, I really don't think it matches what you can do in Procreate. Even though it is pretty good, I don't think it matches what you can do in Artist Studio Pro. I think Artist Studio Pro is still better than Fresco at the minute. So it's a strange one that they would charge that much, but it is Adobe, and they do have a somewhat monopoly on the market when it comes to kind of like tools. But still, very strange that people would be paying that. It's strange that if people choose to just pay the $10 a month for Fresco, but there will be people that will do that by accident, I can imagine. So coming down to other tools, so very similar tool set to Procreate. Procreate's kind of fill bucket tool is just another thing. You just drag the color over, but Fresco has that on the side. It has the lasso tool. It has various other things that work. It has the eyedropper and everything. I don't like the eyedropper on Fresco, and I'm probably going to try and change it. I don't like the way where it positions itself. You click in it, it eyedrops something in the area close to where you're clicking, not where you're clicking. I don't like that at all. These oil brushes are pretty cool. They leave, like, as you can see now on the screen, they leave like brush strokes on the canvas, which looks kind of cool. It's interesting. I wouldn't always by choice utilize that, but it is what it is at this point. As I said before in loads of videos, I'm a Coral Painter guy when it comes to really getting down to the nitty gritty. So I kind of like how Coral Painter's brushes work and blend. So this was a bit strange for me, but I did enjoy it. I did enjoy having a little bit of teeth on my canvas when I was done with my painting. So overall, this took me an hour, I think, in Fresco. I spent an hour in it just trying to get something like I would do in Procreate, and it was a good experience. I made sure that I streamlined my process. I put down some lines and stuff first to make sure I could get to the finish line. But as you can see, it's my usual kind of superhero. And it came out pretty good, if I say so myself, and I do like it. And I may be printing it off and having it on the wall or something. I'm not that proud of it, but I'm probably not going to use Fresco that much, so it's interesting to kind of see what I could come up with. And I did come up with something that I would say semi-professional. It's a semi-professional level speed painting. It's not the super duper illustration, but it's not as bad as I thought I possibly would produce something. I would have. It's not as bad as I thought I was going to produce. I thought it was going to be really bad. I thought I was going to struggle the whole time, but I pretty much got used to the process because I've been using Procreate for a year. It felt similar but not the same. The arrangement of things was a bit different, but still, as I said before, for me, the way the texture brushes work and the lack of dual brush and the lack of color dynamics, but these are all things being added in Coral Painter 5, which is coming very soon, and I can't wait for Coral Painter 5. But as I've said, Adobe Fresco for me is a software that I probably won't be using that much. I wasn't that impressed by it. I didn't like, other than the brush you saw me using for most of the process, I didn't really like any of the brushes in the software. I don't care much for the watercolor brush. I don't care that much for the oil brush. I just kind of tried to stick to tools that worked for me when I was using Photoshop, and luckily for me, one of my kind of like favorite Photoshop brushes was already loaded into Fresco, which is strange because it makes me think, like, why is that brush in Fresco? What made them choose that? Like, what made the executives say, oh, we're going to put this one in? This is a popular one. Because there's so many others that like are popular ones that they didn't put in, but they put this one in. So that was strange. But that is my opinion, guys. Adobe Fresco is a good software. It's solid, but is it worth the money? No. If you don't have an Adobe subscription, should you get it? Probably not. Should you get Procreate for $10? Absolutely. Should you get Artist Studio Pro? I think that's also $10. Very possibly. But Fresco, paying $10 for, especially if you're a student or something, paying $10 forever, every month, I can't justify that for the tool set that it comes with now. For the lack of support that it comes with now. And, just for the overall intuitiveness and the experience, it's just not as good as Procreate or Artist Studio Pro. And I wouldn't kind of put it on a pedestal the way they're on a pedestal. And that is all I have to say about it. I'm going to say that for the last time. I've been Fiji. I'll see you guys in the next one. Like and subscribe. Share it, helps me get off the ground. And I'll see you guys again. Look after yourselves, y'all. Peace.